All right, well, we'll go ahead and begin. We've got a little bit of an introduction before we get into the meat of this grant opportunity as folks arrive. So, hello. Today is December 4th, 2025, and I want to thank all of you for joining for this info session around the Boise City Department of Arts and History's America 250 grant opportunity. I want to start by acknowledging the broader history of the land that we're meeting on today. We recognize the ancestral, cultural, traditional, and unceded territory of the Shoshone, Bannock, and Northern Paiute people, whose land the city of Boise is on. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. This is a live information session that is being recorded for future use and reference. A recording of the session will be posted by the end of today on both Arts and History's grant webpage and to Arts and History's YouTube channel, so you'll be able to find this resource and refer back to it. English language captions are available, and you can access those by clicking on the live transcript button at the bottom of your screen and then selecting show subtitle. So should be live transcript and then show subtitle if captions help you access this content. I strongly encourage your questions throughout this presentation and ask that you please drop them into the Q&A box or Q&A feature. So that at the end of the presentation, I can get to as many of your questions as I can. I would ask, though, that if your question is really specific to your project, kind of getting in the weeds of the particular details, that we find time to connect outside of this info session. You can book one-on-one meetings with me, and I'll talk about how you can do that here throughout the presentation. All right, so real quickly, in case we haven't had the opportunity to meet or you're a first-time applicant to an Arts and History grant opportunity, my name is Mackenzie Dunstan, and I serve as the Grants and Outreach Manager for the Department of Arts and History. I've been with the department for going on 8 years now, but in my role for just about a year, this particular role for about a year now. So in addition to the grants program, I also manage the city's cultural ambassador program. Our current cultural ambassador is Boise Philharmonic. And I also co-manage the Boise City Writer in Residence program, which is a partnership with the Boise Public Library and the Cabin Literary Center. I also coordinate Arts and History's outreach efforts to make sure that the community is aware of all our programs and opportunities and offerings, especially through the lens of publicly funded opportunities. I am always happy to connect by phone, email, or in person. I work from City Hall downtown, and I do host office hours on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So once again, if you want to connect in person around the specifics of your project or workshop an idea, please feel free to reach out. My information is available here on the screen, but you can also access it on Arts and History's website. All right, so during this info session, we are going to cover the following things. We're going to talk about what is the America 250 grant opportunity, discuss eligibility and requirements for this grant, funding, how much you can request, and then some restrictions to funding. We'll go over the evaluation criteria. So what is your proposal or application being graded on? In addition to the review process and timeline, so who is looking at your application and what is the timeline you can expect around that. I want to go over a couple application basics. I have some suggestions and opportunities for support, and then we'll do the Q&A. All right, let's talk about what is this opportunity, because it is a brand new opportunity offered through the city of Boise. So essentially, the America 250 grant provides funding for individuals or organizations in established or emerging cultural fields to create projects that one, benefit Boise residents, and two, contribute to the city of Boise's commemoration and celebration of America's 250th anniversary. So in 2026, the United States turns 250 years old, and there are nationwide efforts to think about how to commemorate or acknowledge or potentially celebrate this moment in time. So with this grant, we are asking folks to think about, the stories, the ideas, the legacies that are present in the United States history over these last 250 years. So thinking about those, interpreting those, while also perhaps inspiring fresh perspectives on our future. So looking at sort of both past, present, and future, and telling these stories through projects that are focused on arts, history, and culture. The city of Boise is using the American Association for State and Local History's 250th anniversary program field guide. It's a mouthful. um, to sort of guide some of the thematic work for programming at the city overall, and is also being applied to this grant opportunity so that there is alignment across the board. This guide, which we'll look at here in a second, has identified a few broad themes, looking mostly at American history, but can be applied across a lot of different contexts and programs. So here's those five themes. For those of you not familiar, the American Association for State and Local History is a national membership association that is dedicated to helping particularly history and the history community thrive. You know, everybody from the volunteer at the small local museum to, you know, the PhDs writing the books, you know, helping us understand the stories of our past. So for the better part of, I think, a century at this point, AASLH has provided leadership, resources, education to its members, you know, who are seeking to preserve and interpret state and local history and make the past more meaningful to all people. So they have been doing some work around the semi-quincentennial for quite some time and produced this field guide a couple years back, where they once again identified five sort of guiding themes to help folks think about how they may want to commemorate or celebrate America 250. So those themes are as follows: unfinished revolutions, which encourages reflection about ongoing change and how foundational ideas of our nation, such as freedom, justice, democracy, are perhaps still works in progress. The other is power of place. So considering how geography, local stories, built environments, landscapes, and communities, the people of a place can shape identity, memory, and historical meaning. We the People goes a little bit further in that. There's a focus on telling inclusive stories, considering who's included or excluded from narratives, centering community voice, and really pushing or encouraging projects that might have a sort of participatory approach. So capturing the voice of the people here today and how that might carry into the future. American Experiment, I think, is something that maybe is most familiar. So framing the U.S. as an ongoing experiment in governance, democracy, rights, and looking to embrace both what is aspirational and what is full of contradiction. And then the last one is doing history. So considering how history is made today, who tells these stories, what voices are heard, why, and using historical best practices as part of civic engagement or education. So these themes are going to come up again as part of the application. And really what we're asking for this America 250 grant is whatever your project might be encompassing, does it align with one of these themes? And in what ways does it align? You can access this guide also online, and there's also a link to it on the landing page for this grant opportunity. Okay, eligibility and requirements. So you are eligible to apply for this grant if you meet the following criteria. If you are an individual or a member of an organization or community group that offers arts, history, and cultural based programming or projects in the city of Boise, Idaho. But here's the thing, your organization or community group can reside, operate, or generally be within Ada, Boise, Canyon, Elmore, or Gem County. So what this means essentially is that, let's say your organization operates out of Caldwell, which is in Canyon County. You are eligible, but you need to intend to or already do programming within the city of Boise, offering something within the city proper. Your project is eligible to be funded by this grant if it meets the following criteria. First and foremost, that it centers arts, history, or cultural-based activities, which can be a wide range of things. Second thing is that it is free or low cost, which here at the City of Boise means $20 or less per person, or provides a scholarship or financial aid to participate. That your application is completed by an individual or representative of an organization that operates within, once again, all those counties, Ada, Boise Canyon, Elmore, or Gem, basically everything surrounding Ada County. That your project will take place within Boise city limits, that your America 250 grant project will occur between April and September 2026, that your project meets the Americans for Disabilities Act standards regarding physical accessibility to any project venues, that you comply with the Department of Arts and History's Equal Opportunity Statement, which essentially means that your project will not discriminate in its programs or activities on the basis of race, religion, national origin, sex, age, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. That your project includes a balanced budget using the provided template. We're going to look at that here in a moment. And then your requested funds do not exceed 50% of the total project expenses. So if you are a former applicant, many of these things should be very familiar to you. And there's just a few small edits or additions because of the initiative-based elements of this grant. It's very time specific to align with the anniversary of America 250. All right, so types of eligible projects that would work for this grant opportunity include what we broadly call public programs. So things like presentations or lectures, workshops, guided tours, things like that. Events, also very broad, but putting on some sort of offering for the community. Performances of many kinds, exhibits, educational experiences, things that are maybe considered collaborations or innovative productions that really cultivate or uplift a cultural community, research, planning, or analysis projects that are available for Boise residents and intend to strengthen the cultural base here. And then virtual and online versions of any of the above projects or other things, but there has to be clear intent to reach Boise residents. And then eligible use of the grant fund. So this is a great list to refer to when you are asked in the application, how do you intend to use the grant fund specifically? I would look to this list first as the most eligible use of these funds, although not limited to. So things such as artist or contractor fees, so paying those who are creating, performing, or presenting aspects of your project, materials and equipment, or excuse me, materials and supplies directly needed for your project. These could be lots of different kinds of creative supplies, printing needs, or equipment rentals. Venue or space rentals needed for the project, marketing and promotion, such as design work, printing materials, or advertising directly tied to your funded project. You can use it for accessibility expenses. So perhaps you want to bring in American Sign Language interpretation, have captioning, or create materials that are in alternate formats, such as using Braille. All those things would be eligible with these funds. And then documentation, so things such as photography, videography, or archiving your event or project in some way. So funding and restrictions to funding. We're going to start with what is the guaranteed funding as part of this grant. So the total funding to be distributed for the America 250 grant is $30,000 and to be distributed among selected projects. So funding amounts will vary based on the number and scope of applications that we receive, and not all applicants are guaranteed an award. This is ultimately a pretty small amount of money that we want to spread widely. One important note, and already mentioned, is that funding requests cannot exceed 50% of the total project expenses that you're applying for. And this is outlined in the Budget Excel spreadsheet that we'll look at here more closely in a moment. But just to kind of make that tangible, let's say, for example, your project expenses are $4,000, you can request up to $2,000. But please note that depending on available funds, you may receive an award that is less than the amount requested. I have listed up here as well the dollar amounts that you can apply for through this grant. So the range is $1,000 to $5,000 in $500 increments. And I want to point this out just because your total budget expenses might come out to like an odd dollar amount. And a lot of folks sometimes just chop that in half and submit that amount. But we do need whole round numbers here. So 1,000 to 5,000 in $500 increments is what you can request. All right, so looking at this budget template, so as part of your application, you'll be provided to complete this form as as part of the suite of your grant materials. So this Excel document is available both within the application itself, and you will upload a copy of a completed version of this to the application. But you can also find it if you want to be able to tinker with it before you really get into the application on the Arts and Histories website. So in this template, you're going to see two main types of expenses. You have cash expenses and in-kind. Cash essentially are the costs that you are paying out of pocket or from your organization or group's existing budget. And then in-kind or volunteer contributions represent the goods or services that are donated or discounted that you would have typically paid for. And this does include volunteer labor. You'll notice that in column A, we have already listed the most common expense categories that our applicants over the many, many years of all of Arts and Histories grant programs have identified for their projects. These categories are really just here to guide you, and you only need to complete the rows that relate directly to your project. And if you find that you have additional costs that don't quite fit under any of these standard categories, please feel free to use the other expenses rows and rename them to reflect the items that are specific to your proposal. One last thing I want to point out on this expenses part of the Excel document is column E. So column E is E for explanation. This is your narrative around your numbers. And this is a great opportunity to provide detail to exactly what that dollar amount is doing as part of your project. And it really does help our review panel understand how each part of your project budget supports your overall vision for your project. When you're thinking about the human resources behind your project, such as volunteer hours or your own time administering the project, one thing that we'd love you to consider is the current value of a volunteer hour. So this is listed within here when you open up under this column G, but the independent sector in partnership with the Do Good Institute has provided information that the national value of a volunteer hour ranges between $31.80 and $34.79. So would encourage you to use that rate when you are calculating the value of volunteer time being contributed to your project. All right. Oh, I skipped one. There we go. Okay. So the second half of the budget template focuses on your project income. Just like with the expenses section, you only need to complete the rows and columns that apply to your proposal. And this template also sort of breaks down into two spaces or two categories, one being secured and the other being expected. So secured income represents funding that you have already confirmed. This is already like well planned within your budget. And expected income includes funds that you are requesting or that you anticipate to receive, but have not necessarily secured yet, such as this grant. This also, I see very common is also like ticket sales, where you have an expected amount you intend, you're hoping to make, but it hasn't obviously been secured yet. As you build your budget, you want to remember that your total project income should match your total project expenses. So this will be balanced. And this ensures that your project is, can be fully funded and is feasible. And I think ultimately builds confidence through this lens for review panelists to know that, yes, the funding, the money is there to make a project happen. As a reminder, our grants only cover up to 50% of the total project income, and in-kind contributions such as donated materials, space, or professional services can be included as part of your overall income mix. So I wanted to show a really great example from a successful grant applicant, their budget broadly here. So some things that stand out about this budget template, we've got expenses on one side, income on the other, is that they have identified every column that directly relates to their project. They're very clear about what is cash and what is in kind. And then they have provided a brief but like meaningful explanation behind each of these categories, expenses. And then when you look over at their income section, they have requested the ceiling amount, $5,000. It is less than 50% of their overall budget. And they've also identified where they anticipate to have some individual contributions. And then they do explain where they think those are going to come from. So looking at donations based on expected donations based on past donations for their projects. So this is a really great example, very clear. They identify who they're working with even within this budget, which really builds a lot of confidence that this project is going to go forward, is well planned, and will be well managed. All right, I do want to talk about some restrictions to funding because the things that are eligible for funding are somewhat broad and broad for a reason so that there's some flexibility. But there are some things that are really clear that through the City of Boise's policies, we cannot fund. So the following list here, and once again, this is available in the grant guidelines and on Arts and History's webpage, but I've just got the list here of organizations, project types, and requests that are not currently eligible for funding through this grant. This list is not exhaustive, so if you have any questions or if you feel like something's sort of writing a gray area, please reach out to me and we'll talk about eligibility. But a few things I do want to note here. One is that if you are a government agency, um, uh, you know, we can't provide funding to you. If you're an organization that already receives significant in-kind support from the City of Boise, such as you're operating out of a city-owned facility or building, that is also a restriction. When it comes to really art-based projects, there are some things that start to fall within the category of public art. These can include sculptures, murals, traffic box wraps. So once again, if you're feeling a little unsure about that area, please reach out or contact the Department of Arts and History's public art staff for more information about opportunities for those sort of projects or how to move something forward, like a community mural forward. And then when it comes to other ineligible types of funds, expenses related to personal education, training, loans, software, website domains, or buying equipment are also ineligible. So please take a close look at this list on your own time. And if once again you have any specific questions or feel like something might be a little murky with your project, let's connect and we can talk about it. All right, so how is your application evaluated? So applications are evaluated on the following criteria. I'm going to talk about each of these in more detail, but broadly, community benefit, alignment with the City of Boise and the Arts and History Department vision and mission, alignment with the themes of America 250, quality, accessibility, management, and there are a couple special considerations. If you are a former applicant, most of these are very familiar to you. The only new one would be alignment to the themes of America 250. Okay, so what do these different criteria mean? Community benefit considers how your project includes a clear description of how your work will benefit Boise residents and strengthen our community. Within your application, it explains why this project is meaningful, who it will reach, and how you plan to connect with your intended audience. And then one important note here is that even if your project is small or feels small, or your audience is really particular, that doesn't bar you from potentially being funded by this grant. Smaller audiences can still be really significant audiences, so something to think about there. Alignment with the City of Boise and Arts and Histories Department vision mission is also something that we're looking for. And every single one of these criteria, side note, has a question or multiple questions that help directly answer this. So when it comes to alignment, your project demonstrates alignment with the priorities of the city and arts and history. For the city, it is to build positive relationships within the community to help create a city for everyone. And then the department's mission is to cultivate a distinct sense of place that honors Boise's rich past, diverse communities, and unique natural setting. So finding ways to integrate or understand how your project is supporting these missions is super valuable. Okay, alignment with the themes of America 250. We've looked at those themes already, but considering how your project thoughtfully connects back to those themes, even just one of them is great. And also thinking about how your project might encourage inclusive, relevant, or locally rooted perspectives that invite, participation and a sense of belonging around this national anniversary. When it comes to quality, we're looking at how your application includes the relevant experience or community support, such as, who your partners are or collaborators are, if you have any for your project, to complete or execute your project. It also would present a clear overview of how you intend to use your awarded funds. So being really specific on this is what this grant money will do for the project, and making sure that there's realistic alignment between the scope of your project and the timeline of your project. This is a bit of a quicker grant in some ways. We'll talk about timeline in a minute, but making sure that you can do everything you intend to do in the time that is allotted. All right, and then when it comes to accessibility, your project ensures that Boise residents can meaningfully participate by being both affordable and inclusive. And when we say affordable, here at the City of Boise, it's been identified that, things that are free or low cost experiences, things that, ticket prices are around $20 a person or less, and or provide scholarship or financial aid to participate. So one thing I would note here is that when it comes to scholarship or financial aid, please be sure to include specific details in your application on how an attendee to your event might access this affordable option, or if there are audience groups that have been identified as free or reduced ticket prices, such as children under a certain age or seniors or military discounts. I think there's been projects in the past that have been really have had a lot of strengths, and then ticket prices have been just very high, and they didn't identify how someone might more accessibly be able to participate. So really important to note if you know that you need to maybe have a higher ticket price, how can people still access your program? When it comes to inclusivity, you are anticipating and expressing that through your application, accommodations or services that would provide access for all participants. And this can be things such as physical accessibility, language translation, or hearing and vision assistance. This can look a lot of different ways. And if you have any questions on how to best provide an inclusive experience, we have some really great resources here at the city who would be happy to help understand that. And I'm happy to share what I know as well. All right, and then overall management of your project. So through your application, you demonstrate strong planning, organizational capacity. You identify the folks responsible for managing the project who is going to make it successful. You give details on logistics, such as permits, venue reservations, timelines, your audience, how you want to evaluate if your project was successful and did what you hoped it would do. And then, of course, that complete and balanced budget is included. And then finally, those special considerations. So there are a couple extra points that can be awarded, and this is integrated right into the application as well. But we want to, help first-time applicants, who this might be the very first time they're ever applying for a grant, those who attended or watched an information session. So all of you can confidently click this part of the application as you are attending live or watching this later. If you consulted with arts and history staff prior to applying or even requested a draft review, all these things, you're doing a little extra work to help yourself, and we want to acknowledge that through the scoring process. Okay, so what does that review and scoring process look like, and what's the timeline? So the America 250 grant opened earlier this week on December 2nd, and it will remain open until January 16th, 2026. So I know the holidays are coming up and it's a crazy season. So we wanted to make sure that there were a couple weeks at the beginning of January for folks to think about what they may want to do for a project and apply. Um, like everything that happens in arts and history, we use public process, public review, community member review for these applications. And that will happen throughout January and February. For those of you not familiar with this process, there is a review panel on these grants, and they consist of arts and history commissioners and community members with some sort of expertise or experience with Boise's arts, history, or culture. And they both look at these grant applications independently and in coordination as a group to review and make recommendations on funding. This process really is here to ensure a fair, equitable, and thorough review of every application and a robust scoring experience. I do want to note that Boise sometimes feels like a really small town, and when you work in arts and culture, suddenly you know everyone. But all review panel members are bound by a conflict of interest policy, so a real or perceived conflict of interest may arise, from anything related to finances, professional, personal relationships with an applicant, that could, compromise an unbiased review. And so in that case, we ask that panelists abstain from scoring, commenting, or voting on that particular application to provide as fair as possible as we can review of all applications. So after this review process occurs, all applicants will be notified of their award status in early March, early to mid-March, and then grant funded projects can kick off officially anytime between April and September 2026. And then just as with the annual grant, there is a final report that will be due, and that is completed within 30 days of the last activity of your project, or no later than September 30th, 2026. So this is the broad timeline. Okay, some application basics. So the city of Boise recently adopted a new grant management platform called Unigrants. It was formerly called Amplifund, but now is officially Unigrants. So sorry for that confusion. It happened right in the middle of all this. But if you're a current Arts and History Grant recipient, you do not have to create a new account. Everything should translate to Unigrants, and you can still access this application through the Arts and History website and then log in using your current information. So if you're a brand new applicant, though, you're going to create a new account through the portal of Unigrants. And I have a whole tutorial video on how to do that that's integrated into the Arts and Histories website and the grant guidelines for this. One note I want to make here is that if possible, if you're applying on behalf of an organization, would really strongly recommend using a shared organizational email so that multiple members of your team, if appropriate, can access and manage the account as needed. It's always hard when someone leaves an organization and everything's been attached to their particular email. So sometimes it's a little easier to use that group email. If that's not the case for your organization, don't worry about it. Whatever email you can access is the one to use. And then if you find throughout your application process that you have a login issue or there's an account issue, or you're having trouble accessing a pre-existing account, the support email is wonderful. They are really on top of it, very timely, and it's there on the screen, and then once again included in all the places that all this information is included. Okay, so some high-level understanding of this application. There are 16 application questions. They are within the current guidelines, so you can preview them there. It is a mix of short answer and sort of multiple choice checkbox style questions. And you can take, a very close look if you have questions about the questions at any point, happy to follow up and go into detail about what that question might be asking or why it's being asked or how it relates back to the criteria. I'm happy to provide that clarity. Um, as part of your application, you're going to include, once again, that project budget. It must be completed, balanced, and uploaded into the application for your entire application to be considered. So be very mindful that you are adding that document there at the end. And then there is an opportunity to add other attachments. These include the resumes of, your collaborators, whether they're artists or coworkers or whatever, project managers. You can include volunteer lists if your project hinges pretty heavily on volunteer labor. And then if you have letters of recommendation or other materials, all these are optional. They can sometimes help if you feel like you need something additional to explain or expand on an answer from one of the application questions. This can be great, but not required. Okay, just want to kind of walk you through what this looks like. So this is a screen cap of the Arts Industries website. It recently got a refresh, so it looks a little different than maybe how some folks are familiar. But under the opportunities page, when you click on that, it opens up all this content, and then under open calls is the America 250 grant. And from there, you can read everything in great detail and also access the link to get to Unigrants to apply for this opportunity specifically. And there's what it looks like on the page. So it's right there at the top. So when you click on that link, it's going to open up a page that looks like this. Once again, if you were used Amplifund this summer to apply for one of Arts Industries grants, very, very familiar. So here you can see the opportunity details, a lot of the same content here that is on the Arts Industry website. And you can also look again at the scoring and evaluation and kind of a broad, like a high level understanding of what those different criteria mean and how maybe to relate them in your application. I did not include look at all the questions. You have access to those in many places. And once again, I've created a tutorial video that actually goes through how to step by step how to apply, how to register. And that is on the Arts Niche Road page, or if you can't find it there, I will send it to you direct. All right, just a few more slides and then we'll have time for some Q&A. So a couple suggestions that sometimes get overlooked with applicants, but really can help strengthen an application overall. The first being to confirm your partnerships and collaborators before applying. And I would add to this to make sure that maybe you and a collaborator are not applying for the same project or applying for things that are overlapping in a way. This communication with who you are partnering with, who your collaborators are, is really essential. So maybe before you get into the application proper, there's a sort of everyone to the table. What do we want to do? Who's going to help do what? Are we doing different things? Are different enough things if we are collaborators and applying for multiple projects? Um, I think that communication is really important. And also for the success of your project, knowing that people know that they are part of the success of your project could be an awkward moment when you're like, hey, I noted you as a partner to use your space or to use your resources. And that other group is like, whoa, 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 I did not agree to that. So make sure that there's good communication and commitment before you fully apply. As always, review those guidelines very carefully. If you have any questions along the way, please reach out. Happy to talk through them. When you are answering questions in the application, we've reformatted the application from past years, so I think to like even get more directly at responses rather than sort of three questions being asked all at once. So hopefully that is helpful for you as an applicant to be able to answer those questions very directly, very clearly, and concisely. There is a word count. I think it's 3,000 characters, which is maybe 500-ish words. So there's lots of space to explain, but also thinking about how can I tell my story efficiently. Uh, with that, I would say it's okay that sometimes between questions there's a little bit of repeating. It is good to connect the dots about how everything relates to everything else in your application. So if at times you feel like, oh, have I already said this? It's okay. Like it's sometimes good to hear a thing twice throughout an application to really double down on what you're trying to do. I think it's always great to draft your answers in a separate document before beginning the Unigrants application. That gives you a chance to edit with collaborators, to come back to things in a way that feels maybe a little less high stakes. Sometimes being in the grant portal is like can be a little intimidating. It also ensures that your content is being saved or duplicated in a way that you know you can always access and just as maybe good practice overall. Uh, I think stating sort of what will be, avoiding words like might, maybe, could. I think having a confident tone in your questions really helps build confidence when grant reviewers are reading through all of them. And then really, really important, make sure that budget document is complete and balanced and uploaded properly to the application. These are the things that often get missed or get a little convoluted that we've observed over the many years this grant program has been around. So just pointing those out as some extra considerations. And then my role here really is to support you throughout this entire process. I am happy and I get the privilege to review your applications in advance before you officially submit them. I am not a voting member of the panel. I am just the facilitator of the process. So I can offer suggestions based on the application criteria, you know, uh, ask some additional questions that maybe help, dig a little deeper. And I really, really love this part of the work. So if you want to get a little feedback before you officially apply, I am happy to do it. My contact information again here on the screen. I will say I think email is probably the quickest way to reach me, followed by phone calls. And then I have my virtual office hours. Love to connect in person or virtually. I'm flexible truly with that.